aren't in training to be a sworn, certified Alaska peace officer, and you can end that career here because you're held to a higher standard than other training schools for other professions and other jobs. So it's already begun. And what's common sense is different. Somebody, I know there were many of you, who's never had any prior law enforcement experience, raise your hand. You're closest. Oh, I'll do Friedland. So, no prior law experience and no military. Okay, no prior law or military, raise your hand. Okay, I never get back here. So Vandalar, here's my guess. My guess is before coming to the academy, if you and I had gone to a restaurant that had a nice view, say the one overlooking the boat marina, we had gone into the restaurant, and you let me go in first, you're very gallant, and I had gone to sit with my back to the wall where I have the nice view of the marina, you would probably pull my chair out for me.
Yes, ma'am.
And put it in, and you would sit with your back to everything.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, because you're going to give me the nice chair. Well, the first time I went to lunch with one of you guys as a baby ADA, it was a lunch break during a misdemeanor DWI trial. I assumed that. I know how chivalrous. They're all so chivalrous. Officer and a gentleman, right? An officer and a gentleman. It applies. And I just assumed. And I went to take that seat, and not only did that trooper not pull my seat out for me and give me my trooper, without moving his lips, you guys know how to talk without moving your lips, it's the coolest thing, said, I'll sit there, Val. Okay. And I thought, how rude. And I sat down with my back to the action, and in the next 3 to 5 seconds, I realized what was going on. In the 3 to 5 seconds, he evaluated lines of fire, he evaluated available cover, and he evaluated escape routes. It's common sense to him. It's so ingrained, it's intuitive. But it's not common sense to us. Commoners don't do it. I don't think about that. I've learned to think a little bit differently just in terms of hanging out with you guys. But people that aren't associated or affiliated with you, they don't think that way. They don't operate that way. So what is common sense to people, the brass that has been in the profession longer, may not be common sense to brand new recruits who haven't had it trained and ingrained to where it becomes natural, common sense, intuitive. Just you don't even think about it. Just like driving, you don't even think about it. So, and what I try to prevail upon the leadership is we don't give you a taser, an Aspeton, a Glock, extra magazines, handcuff, OC spray, special patrol car, maybe shotgun, and say, now, go out there and do your job, and just use common sense. Don't do anything outside the realm of common sense. But that's what we're doing with this technology that almost on a weekly, if not more than weekly basis, I get the newsletters and headlines, is ending officers' careers and, in some instances, totally destroying an entire community's trust in their department. So, but interestingly enough, cop roadkill is not just happening to new recruits and rookies, it's happening to very experienced law enforcement officers. So here it is. And this is interesting because it made headline news. It made headline news in the Sacramento Bee. The Sacramento Bee is California's capital's newspaper. California is a very populous state, people. The capital, news from the capital's newspaper. Did I have to go to California to get this headline news story? No, not today. As soon as the Sacramento Bee put it online, It makes global world headlines. It comes right to me. I didn't even have to search for it. Controversial T-shirts put Twin Rivers Police Department in the spotlight. This controversial police shirt was printed by the Peace Officers Association. You got this cute little kid behind bars. You raise them, we cage them, and they sold it for a fundraiser. You know, not everybody shares our sense of humor. And believe me, I understand that humor. I really do. Any profession that is high stress develops its own sense of humor. Medical profession. They say things that would appall their patients, right? So do you. You say things that if you were cross-examined on them in a use of force civil trial in front of a lay jury, like, gee, officer, did you ever attend the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center? Yeah. Gee, officer, did you ever go shopping at Sally's Cop Shop right across the Federal Law Enforcement Training Center right across the road? Yeah. Gee, officer, you wouldn't shop in any place that advocated ideas that you find abhorrent to American values, would you? No. And then just pull up, I wrote an article on this, then just pull up the T-shirts. Officer, what did you feel when you shot that man? Recoil. You think that plays well in front of a lay jury in a use of force trial where the officers had to use deadly force? I don't even have to show you bought one. You spent your money at a place that makes money on this kind of ideas. How about this one? 2 to the torso, 1 to the head. We like them alive, but we'll take them dead. Badges. We don't need no stinking badges. That's for Customs and Border Patrol. That's the one they like. But I understand the need for humor amongst the group because of all the stress. It used to be that our humor was shared with each other at the local cop bar, in the locker room. It served its purpose to vent, to bond, to let off steam, embrace the suck, right? Humor. They don't understand it, and now, unfortunately, it gets on the internet. And how did the Sacramento Bee get a hold of this? The Peace Officer Association president posted it on their website, on their Facebook page. Do you think he had friended the Sacramento Bee? Bresnahan, do you think he had friended the Sacramento Bee?
Yes, ma'am.
No. If you have 400 friends, you can't control it. You can't control it. Because anybody any one of those 400 friends can take any of your content and put it anywhere on the internet. Not just on their Facebook page. They can put it on a website. They can put it anywhere. It's already there. It's already on the World Wide Web. It's not privacy protected. I hate to tell you. Even when it disappears, it's still there, right, Spears? Which means it can be subpoenaed, it can be retrieved, it can be passed on, it can be gotten. Okay, so, and here's what I mean about, so here's the news. Here was the reaction of one agency that they have to work very closely with to protect children. Quote, "There's nowhere on the planet where it's okay to wear a shirt like this," said Senior Counsel for the Children's Advocacy Institute. They're supposed to be working together, right? Now you've got this agency that, anyway. The president of the Police Officers Association changed his Facebook privacy setting Mondays after the Sacramento Bee contacted him. So sorry, too late, too little. Let me give you a couple of other examples, because the examples that I'm getting are from very experienced people that are making headlines. And this at least gets the brass thinking, oh, maybe this isn't just common sense. A Peoria, Arizona police sergeant was in the media in 2007 for a Medal of Honor for heroically risking his life to pull a man from a burning car. He made different news just last year in 2012 when he posted on his social media site, the teenagers in the back are pixelated because they're underage. He apparently was working with a group of teens in the desert, teaching them gun safety, gun handling skills, and for whatever reason had teenagers target practicing with an image of the President of the United States of America. And it gets posted. Anybody guess what happened after that? What? That was viewed as a credible threat on the life of the President of the United States of America, and you, a police officer, are having teens engaged in it. It's on your Facebook page. It's then on the World Wide Web. I'm not going to even comment on the judgment and advisability of having kids engaged in that conduct. But I am commenting on putting it on the World Wide Web. But do you think he expected that would come to the attention of the Secret Service when he hit click? No, it's privacy protected. How would they ever get it? Last year, this is all recent stuff. Last year, a New Orleans police officer, Jason Girard, resigned after being suspended. So guess how voluntary that was. He resigned after being suspended for posting commentary. Now, he posted it on a local TV station's website about the fatal shooting in Florida of Trayvon Martin by George Zimmerman. And he posted, "Act like a thug, die like one." Another commenter posted a comment criticizing his initial comments as racist and also questioned him about whether wearing a hooded sweatshirt made someone a thug. He responded. The poster's identified himself as Eddie. "Eddie, come on down to our town with a hoodie and you can join Martin in hell and talk about your racist stories." Now, my question, let's say he hadn't been suspended. Let's say he hadn't resigned. Let's say he'd been suspended but not resigned. How safe do you think he would have been responding to calls in a minority neighborhood? How safe would the fellow officers going to back him up be? And I can tell you how I, as a lawyer, would feel having him on the stand in a use of force civil trial, because here's the cross-examination by the plaintiff's attorney. "So, officer," just taking the words out of his mouth, "So, Officer Girard, if you're an African-American citizen and you dress a certain way, you get to be the judge, decide they're a thug, and sentence them to death." Right? So even if he didn't resign, is he a liability on the force? He's endangered himself. That's a liability. He's endangered every other police officer. That's a liability. And he could never be involved in a use of force incident. He can't even be involved in a criminal case that has a minority defendant. Remember O.J. Furman? Have you ever used the N-word? He's history. I can't use him anymore. And even when he resigns, that danger to his opinions, people have a right to think are shared by other people in his department, and you're going to be looked at with suspicion and not trusted and not cooperated with, and maybe even have the door closed and locked. And if you need somebody to come help you arrest somebody, you're not going to get it. You're not going to get any cooperation. Now, then I realize it's not just cops. It's people who really, really should know better. It made global news as one of the worst technology mistakes of the decade. Headline news. It involved the vice president of a public relations firm named James Andrew. What does a public relations firm get paid to do? build, foster, nurture good public relations between their client and the consuming public. That's what they get paid to do, right? So James Andrews, vice president of a public relation firm, travels to Memphis, Tennessee, to make a presentation to his public relation client's biggest client, his public relation company's biggest client, FedEx. Memphis is FedEx's corporate home. When he gets off the plane, and we see it, right? As soon as the plane's taxiing and they tell you you can use approved electronic devices, everybody's grabbing them, right? Everybody's doing this before you can even get up and walk down the aisle. And he did that. And he tweeted on his phone, "True confession, but I'm in one of those towns where I scratch my head and say I would die if I had to live here." For some reason, the vice president of a public relations firm, who I'm sure is using technology to foster public relations for their clients, wasn't thinking when he tweets he is putting this on what? Do you think he would put that on a sandwich board walking up and down the front of the FedEx home office? Instead, he's distributed it way beyond that. Well, some FedEx employees got wind of the tweet. They pass it on to management. Clueless, Andrews walks into his presentation the next morning, and FedEx isn't real thrilled with paying his company a lot of money to diss their hometown. We're just not, it's not just law enforcement. Now, I don't care about public relation firms. I really don't. I don't care about public relation firms. But I care deeply about you people and the profession and your sustainability, your surviving and having a winning career. And so it wasn't a hard sell for this academy. They're very progressive. And they freed up time for an 8-hour block on this. I've been training around the state at different detachments and posts and municipalities on this, and I'm training fast and furious all around the country on this because people are starting, as I present this, they start to realize it's not just a matter of common sense. And it's become clear from questions I've got to articles I've written on the topic, and from questions I get from very experienced law enforcement, that this is complicated and they don't have a clue. They don't have a clue about what your rights, responsibilities, and liabilities are. When Boise Police Department was one of the first departments in the nation that implemented specific social media policies for their police department, didn't rely on conduct unbecoming an officer, but specific. And the chief mandated training for all 400 employees, support staff as well. And he wrote an article about that in Police Chief magazine. And he says he was surprised how many law enforcement officers were surprised to learn that the department could restrict their freedom of speech in a way that would be unconstitutional if applied to the general public. And so the question I get from law enforcement is, wait a second, you mean those of us who put our lives on the line to protect and defend the constitutional rights of dirtbags and scumbags, just by virtue of being a police officer, we have fewer constitutional rights than they do? That's the question, and that question gets posed again and again. The first two comments on police1.com to the Jason Girard headline news of being forced to resign for those comments, here were the first two comments from police officers commenting on that article. First comment: when are officers across this country going to learn that your First Amendment rights are severely restricted? P.S. I retired 2 years ago and had all my rights restored. Next comment: absolutely disagree. Our First Amendment rights are not restricted simply because we chose to join the law enforcement profession. Nowhere in my oath of office did it say, and I forfeit the following United States constitutional rights. Chief Serpus is wrong to retaliate against an employee for off-duty free speech, period. A lot of disagreement, a lot of confusion about what's okay and what hasn't. So consider, these are some of the questions we're going to wrestle with today. And these are in your handout. I just put the questions in your handout on these slides. So let's start with Recruit Torgerson. Would you read this slide?
Yes, ma'am. First and Fourth Amendments, do officers have any First Amendment freedom of expression or Fourth Amendment expectation of privacy for what they post on the internet?
Do you know? Do you know?
Certainly, because your employer is not acting as an agent of the federal government.
You don't know. Guess what? Chiefs, deputy chiefs, captains, lieutenants, they don't know either. You say you have them. Do you know what they are?
Protection from government intervention.
Oh. So you have the same First Amendment and Fourth Amendment rights as citizens who aren't police officers.
As a citizen, yes, but that doesn't apply to employers, only to the government.
I don't know how what you said translates into what you can do and what you can't do. Let's see. Let me ask some follow-up questions and see if you can answer these follow-up questions. Read that question, Recruit Spears.
To what extent does the First Amendment protect complaining about work, a supervisor or coworker, departmental decisions, policies, or procedures?
On the internet, in the privacy of your home, on your own computer, on a privacy protected. Good to go?
Yes, ma'am.
Protected? Protected? Good to go?
Protected against criminal prosecution, but not protected against employer sanctions.
So you can get fired.
Yes, ma'am.
You can get fired for putting your opinion on your off-duty time on your personal computer on a privacy protected page.
Depending on what the content of it was, I would imagine so. Yes, ma'am.
Who says yes? Well, we have a difference of opinion, and we have a difference of opinion amongst chiefs, deputy chiefs, captains, and lieutenants. They don't know. And that's the main point I make to them. It's not as simple as using common sense about what you can, what you can't, and what determines. Here's another question we're going to take a look at. Would you read that, Recruit Tilly?
To what extent does the First Amendment protect personal expressions about people, politics, religion, sexual orientation, or etc.?
Have you given up your First Amendment rights to not only hold any opinions, but your complete First Amendment right to express them in off-duty time, in the privacy of your home, on your computer, not a work computer on a privacy-protected network? How about the Fourth Amendment, recruit theft?
Does any Fourth Amendment privacy protection depend on whether officers post on a privacy-protected social networking page?
Recruit Rubio, would you read this?
Do law enforcement officers have different responsibilities and liabilities for particular functions? Are they legally critical and sensitive jobs? If so, what are they?
At this point, I challenge leadership. If, number one, do you know if they do? And if they do, and you're not training on it, shame on you. Shame on you. Because if it's different simply because of them being a police officer, that's exactly what the profession needs to be training on. Recruit Millette, please.
All right. Do these protections, responsibilities, and liabilities depend on whether you post as a private citizen or an officer of the agency?
You asked that question. We'll see.
You are on or off duty? Do you use a work or personal electronic device?
This is a whole nother thing the profession hasn't stopped to consider. My profession has, because we're getting sandbagged and ambushed in court, unprepared. Recruit Lopez.
How are civil and criminal defense attorneys using officers' internet posting? What are they getting and how? What
Kid, what just happened? Snooze, right? Snooze. Okay. I don't know what that was all about. I think I just saved us from a bomb. Okay, we'll just finish the questions. Thank you. Recruit Kid Lopez. I'm sorry, Kid Johnson.
Are anonymous internet comments subject to the officer's oath and code of ethics?
Recruit Del Botten.
How are officers' internet postings jeopardizing their safety and potentially the safety of their families?
This is what we're going to spend some time wrestling with today. If you leave here with nothing more than a heightened awareness and vigilance, I will be very, very gratified because, as far as I know, every other academy in the nation is sending recruits out not even thinking about this. And at least Alaska's law enforcement profession has awakened to my call of the silver horn and realizes that it's their duty to start helping protect people from it. And I do this because I don't want you to end up to be cop roadkill on the information highway. Isn't he cute? They do everything I ask them. And I don't want your agency to end up being headlines in next week's article. So let's take a 10-minute break and we'll start coming